Hello everybody, welcome to your EFL Championship round 38 hot takes with Sheffield United, arguably the big winners this weekend following their Derby Day victory at Hillsborough this afternoon. It is really tight at the top. Is it now officially, mathematically, a three-horse race for the championship title? And how seriously should we take Bristol City as a playoff and therefore promotion contender during the remainder of this season? Get involved with your comments on the hot takes, especially if you were at a round 38 EFL Championship game this weekend. Quick heads up, we're speaking to Sam Parkin tomorrow on the Championship Check-In podcast. We will focus on relegation tomorrow, so we're only going to talk about the top half of the table today. Keep watching, but if you are focused on a team in the bottom half of the championship, we will be covering your side tomorrow. Let's head up to the top of the table where probably now mathematically, and I know a lot of people would have had this in their heads for a while now, but it really, really does look like a three-horse race. And I think we better start with Sheffield United. They're not top of the table. What is the goal difference? Goal difference is massive. They're tied up with Leeds. They're on 80 points. But can I even add that up? Leeds 26, just the 26 ahead on the goal difference. Burnley just 2 points behind. If you follow the table as closely as I do, you'll know that was where we were at about Tuesday. No, well, call it 7:44 p.m. on Tuesday. That was where we were. Then it changed again, didn't it, in the midweek round? And now with Leeds drawing and second and third placed Sheffield United and Burnley winning, we are back where we were, and there are only now 8 games to go. About 30 seconds ago, I was going to focus on Sheffield United, who won and have now done the double on Sheffield Wednesday. They won at Hillsborough today. Ryan Brewster getting the goal in the second half. Typical, emotional, cagey Derby Day fare, wasn't it? And they get the job done. I'm going to say the same thing I say every time Sheffield United win by a single goal. Count them up. Absolutely brilliant. 15 single goal wins for Sheffield United this season. That is 8 wins out of 9 away from home for the Blades as well. And in the Championship this year, they have won 10 games, 1-0. We got them pegged. We got this narrative sorted. Sheffield United are a winning machine. They get the job done by hook or by crook. Again, if and when they are promoted this season, if that does indeed happen, we're going to be saying they clawed their way through the force of will of Chris Wilder in the dugout to promotion this season. And you have to claw your way in Derby Day. I think they've said on the Sky coverage, a first double for Sheffield United in the Steel City Derby in 19 years. And I think it's not necessarily the hardest fixture remaining for Sheffield United, but it's certainly the biggest nuisance, isn't it? The most emotional fixture. I know it's Coventry next, and we'll talk about Coventry in relation to their big win over Sunderland, but Chris Wilder, the Blades players and the Blades fans are going to be really packing away that latest round of games. We go into the international break now. Really, really happy with the way they have finished that. 10 points in the past 4 games. Could have been all 12. And Chris Wilder was very kind of humble about the late equaliser Bristol City got in the week and suggested that maybe that was what they deserved. But they face Coventry when we return on Friday, the 28th of March. And then look, Oxford, Millwall, Plymouth and Cardiff leads you up to the game we cannot stop talking about in round 44, where Sheffield United go to Burnley. And I think the Blades fans will be thinking about those fixtures I've just read out. You think, if you can beat Coventry, can you give yourselves a cushion over Burnley? And remains to be seen. We'll talk about Leeds, what they're going to do. The fixtures do look the most preferable on paper. Can Sheffield United give themselves a lead going into that Burnley game, to the point where if they were to draw it, it would be a favourable result. That is what they are going to want. But I think they're the big winners this round, Sheffield United. Get in the comments, Blades fans. They're not top of the table. Leeds United are still up at the top of the Championship table, but they drew 2-2 at QPR, and this will probably split the comments in half, and probably the Leeds fans as well. Was it a good point or was it a bad point? I guess it depends how you frame the question, because when you're 2-0 down in London in a 12:30 kickoff in the last portion of games before an international break, you will very, very, very much take a point, get out of dodge. We said this before, didn't we, this round of games, that a draw wasn't going to be the end of the world because Leeds were going to be top with 8 to play. It's another away game ticked off, and then the last 8, obviously 4 home and 4 away to finish things off. And I keep saying in this title race, I say it every year, it's a race. You know, you can look at results and projections, and sometimes it's just at the end of the round, are you top of the table or not? And I'll refer you back to the fixture we've spoken about there a minute ago between Burnley and Sheffield United. That may be the loveliest thing the Leeds fans have got in their pocket. I mean, apart from their excellent manager who's been promoted twice by winning the title before, and an excellent squad and 80 points. But in their pocket, they also have that fixture, which could just be absolutely gigantic, where stick your feet up, Leeds fans, in round 44, knowing somebody, or potentially both, of Sheffield United and Burnley are definitely dropping points that round. I can give you that now, guys. That is not a prediction. That is a spoiler. That is definitely happening. The more nervous of the Leeds fans, and I know there'll be plenty of you in the comments, will say Leeds have dropped points in 3 of the past 4 games. That's not great, but there's a lot of other good stuff. Interestingly enough, I had a look back in terms of Leeds defensively. It's actually very rare for them to concede over 1.5 goals in a game. That's only happened 5 times this season. Happened at QPR. I suppose if you're Daniel Farke, you can say bad mistake from Aronson for the first goal, plays across his box. Saito whips it in, and then it's a set play, isn't it? For the or it was a quick throw in, I think, for the second goal that Steve Cook heads in. So, you know, you've still got to defend those things, but they are things you can very, very much work on, rather than some, you know, big thing that's meaning you're leaky with the goals. I'm really interested to know. Nonto came into the game in the second half. Very interested to know, given Aronson's mistake, and Nonto's an excellent player, whether that might be enough for Daniel Farke to bring him in for this final run of games. Knowing Daniel Farke, having studied him when he was at Norwich, he will want to play exactly the same team for all 8 of these games and just round it out and get the job done. He'd like Ethan Ampadu to be in as many of those games as well. I wonder whether you might see... Well, let me phrase it as a question rather than as a hot take. No, this is hot takes. Here's my hot take. You're going to see more of Ampadu and Nonto. You're going to see plenty of them, I think, in the final games. Let me know your thoughts. Leeds fans, yes, it's 3 points dropped in the last 4, but here we are at 80 points with 8 games to go. Your 2 points per game takes Leeds to 96. The only fly in the ointment for my money, 2 of the next 3 away from home. Luton might not be straightforward. They're going to up you, won't they? They're grossly underperforming. They're in a relegation scrap. And Middlesbrough away could be interesting as well. So they're going to want to take the 6 points, however they get it across those 3 games. If they get more, then the price is going to come in on Leeds not only being promoted, but winning the EFL Championship for 24-25. Get down there in the comments, Leeds fans. Let's hear your thoughts on all of that. Burnley have been accused of being boring this season. They were very, very satisfyingly boring for their fans this week, because they went to Swansea and they just got this done in double quick time. I think they were 2 goals up in the first quarter of this game. Brownhill and Anthony. Brownhill has 17 goal contributions. I wonder how close he will be in the conversation for the EFL Championship Player of the Season. He may win it. Who knows? Let me know your thoughts in the comments on that one. Keep adding these up. 25 undefeated for Burnley, which tells me they ain't going to lose in the playoffs, even if they do miss out on automatics. 27 clean sheets is just ungodly good in 38 games. Sensational. They are right there in the picture. And I know on these shows we look at all types of form lines and all types of form tables. In the last 5 games, Burnley have taken 3 points out of Sheffield United and 5 points out of Leeds. So that very kind of short form, we had some people in the comments debating what the correct form lines to look at. There is no correct form lines. Let me disappoint you all there. You look at whatever you consider most meaningful and you can argue it however you see fit. Remember, most football fans will just find the one that flatters the club they support the most. I've just picked one out to illustrate the point that Burnley have made a move recently on both sides over these past 5 games. Get involved in the comments. It looks very, very much like a 3-horse race. Now, I know a lot of people discounted Sunderland, I don't know, you tell me, 4 rounds ago, 6 rounds ago. I haven't been ready to do that maybe until today and this particular show because, and let's move on to the playoff picture, Sunderland lost 3-0 at Coventry. Bit of a hiding, in fact. And we've said this before as well. The 2 biggest gaps in the Championship table are above Sunderland and below Sunderland. And let me know, Black Cats fans, is that worrying to you that Sunderland are basically nailed on to finish 4th? We had it with West Brom, didn't we, last season? They were nailed on to finish 5th. I don't know how helpful that is, where you kind of know what's going to happen already, because there is a 9-point gap from Sunderland up to Burnley in 3rd and a 10-point gap to Sunderland down to Coventry, who defeated them 3-0. And I know all your brains are going, hang on a minute, if Sunderland are 4th and Coventry are 5th, that's a playoff semi-final. And the Coventry fans will be very pleased if, what would it be? It'd be the first leg, Coventry at home, works out anything like that. 3-0 lead. Well, what did we have? We had League One, didn't we? Sheffield Wednesday and Peterborough. We had a 3-goal deficit. Was it a 4-goal deficit overturned? I think it was 4-0 in the first leg. I can't quite remember. But anyway, those type of deficits seldom get overturned. They are the exception rather than the rule. So basically, Coventry bounced back after losing at Derby in midweek. We'll talk about Derby on the check-in with Sam tomorrow. They are an interesting case. You didn't want to play them this week. Put it that way, Coventry did. So Coventry have now won 10 in 12. Sunderland are 9th in the 10-game form table. So at the moment, and again, use whatever size form table the hell you want. I'm just telling you that over the past 10 games, Sunderland, not only are they not in automatic promotion form, they are not in playoff form either. They're not even in top 8 form. They've been the 9th best team in the Championship. So I really, really hope, because I think what Sunderland have done this season has been absolutely brilliant, that it doesn't peter out, fizzle out, tail off, use whatever terminology you are happy with. And the hope from the Sunderland fans is, I would imagine, that kind of knowing that they're nailed on really to finish 4th now, that reset, prep for those playoffs and get a nice run going into the end of the season. If you do that, you never know where it can take you, if indeed there is carnage ahead and you can find yourself closer to 3rd than 5th, where currently Sunderland are closer to 3rd than 5th, but it's 9 points and 10 points. They're not really close to either of them. Let's just talk briefly about Coventry, who've spoken a lot about. They're on this mini run of hugely testing fixtures, and they have passed the first test with flying colours by beating Sunderland 3-0. We knew it was 2nd, 3rd and 4th for Coventry coming up. They now come back after the international break. The first game back is Sheffield United away for Coventry, and then they play Burnley at home. So, look, we're going to learn a lot. Coventry are looking very much like a playoff team. They're the informed team. Frank Lampard keeps saying, look, these teams, the top 4, that Coventry have matched them over a sort of, I don't know, since January, I'm sure, if you added the points up, or just take that blooming 10 wins in 12 run, and they're the best team in the league, pretty much, aren't they? So, but they didn't do it earlier in the season, and they're setting up to go head to head with one of these teams that's been in the top four, and then very likely, because sixth place rarely reaches the final, let alone wins the playoffs anymore. They're gearing up to take on one of those. They're going to be gearing up with Hadji right back, and he scored a hat-trick, didn't he? Sam's always liked him on the Check-In podcast. 126 days since his previous goal there, Hadji Wright, and he banged in 3. Lovely hat-trick for the United States player there. And Sheff should be back, you would think. Who was the other lad who Lampard was talking about in his post-match? Not Mason Clark, double barrel name, Thomas Asante as well. If they can have a nice full squad and a nice run over the line, they're going to be, fairly well backed in, I think, in the playoffs. I still think whoever finishes third should win it, but you never know what the state of play is when we get to the end of round 46 and tournament football commences. Let me know your thoughts if you're a Sunderland fan or a Coventry fan. Let me know your thoughts if you're a Bristol City fan. And I don't know, I don't think I've taken seriously yet the idea of Bristol City being in the playoffs. But they're in good form, aren't they? And they were in the playoff spots after the win on Friday night. West Brom took the place back. They're 6 ahead on goal difference with their draw against Hull on Saturday. But Bristol City, I mean, the first thing you need to do is be better than the teams in that third quartile. And second quartile, excuse me. Bristol City are now top of that in 7th place. And you need to beat teams like Norwich, who are in that kind of space with you. Obviously, if you're in the playoffs, you need to beat teams in the top quartile, don't you, as well? But they've got to get there first, and I'm sure the Bristol City fans will just be happy with a puncher's chance of 6th place on the final day of the season, and then you're in the mix, and you're into that tournament football and a semi-final away from Wembley, aren't you? And they got themselves 2-0 up in this one, Sykes and Wells. I've got to say, there could have been a fair few more goals in this game. Looking at the highlights, I think it could have been 4-3 either way, couldn't it, frankly? And Bristol City were pretty brutal. And they've been pretty brutal at home. 8 wins in 11 at Ashton Gate. And what I do like about Bristol City then as a potential 6th place side is, could they possibly, because you play at home first if you finish 6th, get themselves a lead and just throw a grenade into, a team, frankly. I mean, look, say they played Burnley in the semi-final. They are currently 21 points behind Burnley in the table. So there's a massive gulf. But this is a team that's very, very good at home. And very hard to beat at the moment. 1 defeat in 11. They're projecting 69 points, which isn't a great total in terms of playoffs. We've had plenty higher than that. However, we know it's a low tide, although Coventry are pushing that now, but Coventry are pushing that in respects of 5th place, and Bristol City will only be looking at 6th right now, won't they? Here's the issue, though, guys, that Bristol City in the final 8 games play 1st, 3rd, 4th, and 6th in the table. Bristol City have a tricky run of games. They go to Burnley. That's the next game back. They have West Brom at home. That could be gigantic, couldn't it? Because currently that is 7th versus 6th, and they're tied on points. I'm sure some Bristol City fans will argue that Leeds away in round 45 could be all right if Leeds are already promoted, which they might be. You don't know. So you could scratch that one off. They've also got Sunderland as well. And I'm sure the hyper-positive Bristol City fans will say, well, hang on a minute, Ben. You just said that Sunderland are going to kind of be in stasis in 4th place, and that might not be helpful. So, yeah, fair point. But Burnley away ain't going to be easy. Watford, West Brom, QPR, Sunderland is the next run. They go to Luton as well. If they get in the playoffs, they're going to damn well deserve it, Bristol City. But let me know how seriously you are taking them. One more team we're going to talk about, just to reiterate, we'll talk about the bottom of the table on the Championship Check-In podcast with the great Sam Parkin, who was on 2 games for Sky Sports this week, wasn't he? He did Sheffield United, Bristol City, and Millwall versus Stoke, which is the game we're about to talk about. So Sam will know way more about it than me. I'm going to tell you that Millwall are kind of still just about in the conversation. They were the only winner between 8th and 13th in the table. I suspect most really reasonable Millwall fans will just be targeting top 10. But do this maths. 6 wins and 2 draws. So a lightning run over the line would take Millwall to 71 points, which may well be enough this season in the low tide. We've got, really positively for Millwall though, 3 wins in 5. Bit spotty because there's 2 defeats in there as well. They did have to go to Elland Road in midweek, which is never helpful. Ivanovic, whatever happens this season, they are building a potential star there because he's really young, Ivanovic, and he's got 7 in all comps. Double figures this season. If they turn him into, that turns into 15 or 18 or 20 next season, then this is what Millwall need to do. You need to build stars if you don't have parachute payments and you want to grow in the Championship. So that is a good thing. I'm more looking at top 10 for Millwall rather than top 6, but could happen if they can go on that mad run between now and the end of the season. There you go. Get in the comments with your hot takes. The questions we asked in the intro. Title race, definitely down to 3 now. How are you seeing it? Talk to me about Sunderland in stasis. How unhelpful is that? Talk to me about Bristol City. Are you taking them seriously as a potential 6th or even 5th place team? How about that? Get involved in the comments. And anybody else there in that little group of teams there below Bristol City, Borough, Blackburn, Watford. We mentioned Millwall, down to Sheffield Wednesday, who lost today. And do you agree with me? Sheffield United, the big winners this round. Let's hear from you. We'll speak to Sam Parkin tomorrow on the check-in about relegation. So it is now over to you. That is the hot takes for round 38. Let us know what you think down there. Keep the debate moving as we go into the final international break of the 24-25 season.